Welcome back. Well, I know I promised you that we would follow up on the lamp today, but I'm afraid we're not going to because I banged my elbow. Where is it? It's right here. And see, it's just a little light bruise. It's not a big deal, but I'd rather both arms working at 100% before I start playing with electricity. It just doesn't sound safe otherwise. So instead, I thought I'd do something that Jocelyn and I were actually discussing this a couple of days ago. After 20 years on eBay, I have some really entertaining war stories. So I thought I'd share a couple with you. Just strange things people have said or done, and thought we'd just have a little fun with that. I'll be right back. Well, let me start with why I do not sell to China. Now, occasionally I will lift that restriction if I'm selling an item that is of particular significance to the Chinese people. For example, if it's a piece of Chinese antique, something that's antique, something that's art, that they may have a legitimate desire to repatriate, then I'll do it. I do it with a very great caution because I had sold, over the years, I have made, I think, 4 sales to China. 3 of them have gone very smoothly, but one of them went sideways and it was nothing short of crazy. The woman that I sold the item to, immediately after the sale, had left some alarming feedback. She said that I was disloyal and that I had called her mother a horse. Now, I have no idea where she got disloyal from, but I most certainly had never called her mother a horse. By the way, I subsequently sort of figured out that this is probably the result of a very poor English to Chinese translation program. Nevertheless, I ended up having to call eBay and having that feature, this was the feedback she left, having the feedback removed, which they were happy to do because it happened within a few hours of the sale before the item could have even been shipped out. I did, in fact, ship out the item. She eventually got it. She was very happy with it. She sent me a note that was in Chinese. I have Chinese friend who read the note. She was happy with it. No idea why. Very, very poor translation program. That's why I don't sell to China. I don't sell to any country where either the buyer does not speak my language or I do not speak their language. We need some basis of communication. And that's what the "you are disloyal, you called my mother a horse" taught me. Got to be careful. Although my friend Karen had a really interesting story, no excuse for it. This was someone in the United States who presumably speaks English as a native language. Karen is my friend who had decided she was going to sell Barbies to sort of get her through her retirement. And with no knowledge of Barbies to begin with, within a couple of years, she became one of the biggest Barbie sellers on eBay. She was bringing down, 5 figures a year. Really nice. And then she moved over into miniatures, and I showed you a slide of some of her beautiful miniatures. Well, she was selling a miniature Laura Ashley sofa. It was in the dollhouse furniture category, and she had the measurements up. It was like, 6 inches long, so on and so forth. And it was selling for $20 and free shipping. So she ships it out to someone who, in fact, bought it. And wouldn't you know it, As soon as the person got it, turns out she was very unhappy because she thought she had purchased a full-size Laura Ashley sofa, brand new, for $20 with free shipping. Like, my goodness, what planet was she on? That one taught me that you can never really predict your buyer's expectations. You might not think something is reasonable, but you never really know what your buyer thinks is reasonable. So that's one to throw in the back of your head. Yes, Karen and the 6-inch Laura Ashley sofa. But I also had some that just didn't have happy endings. Years ago, and this is probably going back about 15 years, it was back in the days when I had my real telephone number listed with eBay. I learned better than that. So now I have, I think I have 9876543. Sometimes I'll do 3456789. Just mostly random numbers, but I like those because if you give me the first number, I can tell you the rest of the phone number. And sometimes they'll ask for my phone number, and I really don't want to have to admit I made it up. But anyway, one of my buyers got a hold of my phone number, started calling me all the time. It was clear she was lonely, and wanted to talk. So I would usually talk to her for a little bit and then, I have to cut it short and move on. But I really didn't get the sense that she was seriously out of her mind. No, I just thought, she's a little lonely. She's probably got some issues, but total schizophrenia, not even close. I didn't even get a sense of that until the day she called me up and explained that this seller named Rob, that's not his real name, by the way, that's just the name I've made up for him. Seller named Rob was posting horrible, horrible messages about her. Rob was calling her a skeevy hoe and this and that. And she even showed me where I could find it. She gave me item numbers and said, pull up this item number and you'll see, and that's his listing, and look what he's saying about me. Well, I couldn't find anything. I found information about the item he was selling, but I never found anything offensive about her or anyone else. And at first she was really kind of offended that I couldn't find it. But then, of course, naturally, she realized that it was in code, and because I didn't know the code, naturally, I didn't know what he was saying about her. Yeah, right. Well, shortly after that, a purchase that she had made from me some weeks earlier was challenged by PayPal. PayPal sent me a note saying, the buyer has said that they never made this purchase and they're disputing the sale. Well, I called her up because, of course, she had my phone number. I had hers too, and asked her what was going on. I knew she had gotten the item because even though it didn't happen automatically, you had to pay for tracking on your packages. I always put tracking on my packages, so I had all the tracking numbers. I knew it gotten there, and she had talked to me in the interim and said she had gotten it. Well, she was practically hysterical because Rob had stolen her identity, stolen all of her credit cards. He was buying all kinds of things that she didn't want. She didn't know why he was buying it. She had no idea how he got her credit cards, and she was quite certain he was watching her house. Well, for me, there were no problems. I gave PayPal the tracking numbers that showed that the items that she purchased were in fact delivered. And of course, it didn't hurt that she was on the phone screaming to PayPal that I had nothing to do with Rob, and certainly she didn't think I was stalking her, watching her house. So apparently she was willing to pay me. There were several other eBay sellers that got caught up in this. They didn't use tracking. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people, even for large ticket items, didn't use tracking. It was a lot more casual in those days. There's a lot more trust on eBay because I'm suspecting there were fewer scams. I saw some crazy scams, so in my mind, scamming was always high, but yeah, a lot of people got caught up in that. If they didn't have tracking, sorry, they didn't get paid. And as I say, I walked away clean on that one, in part because of the tracking. I also think the fact that she was hysterically begging them not to penalize me for what Rob had been doing to her and everybody else, that probably helped somewhat. But yeah, she definitely had serious problems. The lesson I learned from that, because I always try to take something out of this, no matter how crazy it is, I firmly believe I can learn something if I try hard enough. The fact is, eBay is open to the public, 100% of the public. The sane, the crazy, the good, the bad, and everyone in between. You never know who you're dealing with. And it doesn't hurt to keep in the back of your mind that you may, in fact, be dealing with someone who simply doesn't view reality the same way you do. So, always pays to think in those terms. But most of my doll buyers were not like that. My doll buyers are their own particular brand of crazy. And we've talked about this before. They're nuts. I love them. They are nuts. They send you Christmas cards with their dolls all dressed up like Santa's elves. You get notes from them saying, I am so in love with Margot, I really need to get her a sister, which basically means I have to remember which doll I sold them, which one they named Margot, so that I can find a doll that will make a good sister for Margot. They pay top dollar, so I do it. No problem from me. But one of the things I get, and I get this rather a lot, is someone will buy something. And I mean, mind you, they'll buy a doll dress that's like this big, and they'll pay $150, $200 for it. And then they'll have second thoughts. It's like, well, can I take it back and trade it for something else? Sure, of course they can. But they don't want to give it up because they are doll collectors. And then once a doll collector has a doll or a doll outfit in their hands, they're not giving it back. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's theirs. It belongs to Margot. It looks too good. It's just, it goes with her coloring. We've got to have this outfit. So they come back with, well, actually, maybe I'll keep this one and give it to my sister because she likes it. They've all got sisters. Give it to my sister because she likes it. Now, we all know it's not going anywhere near her sister. It's going into Margot's closet. She's keeping it. And it's like, oh, for heaven's sake, I'm not judging you. You can have as many $200 doll dresses as your little heart desires, and I'm happy to supply them for you. Go right ahead. But it's like they believe I will think less of them if they're buying like a lot of expensive doll clothing. And I feel bad because, of course, I guess especially women get enculturated to believe that if they do something they want to do for themselves, and it seems a little too frivolous and a little too expensive, that people are going to think they're terrible. They should probably be giving that money to charity. I do not believe they should be giving that money to charity. I believe they should be taking that money and buying doll dresses from me with it. You know, that's my idea of what's going on here. But it's like the guilt just pushes them, and it's like, no, my sister's going to take this one and I'll take the other one, because they don't want me to think that they're greedy and they want two doll dresses. Like, seriously, like I could ever think the less of someone for that. But that's what happens. And it happens over and over and over again. It's almost predictable. And the minute somebody says, and my sister, I know exactly where it's going. But those are my fun doll buyers, and they can just be like super, super people. They're crazy, but in a very good way. But every now and then I find one that's, crazy in a less good way. One of the things I do on eBay is I I I can I was about to say I speak French, but I don't. My accent's terrible, so I don't speak French. I can read and write French, let me put it that way. I don't have to worry about my lousy accent when I read and write French. So I have a little note on the bottom of my eBay listings. It's just one line in French, but it's enough so that my French buyers know I speak French, so they will come and they will do business with me because they can do it in their native language, and not all of them speak English. And that's okay, because I know a whole bunch of people don't speak French. But every now and then I will get someone who will contact me because I speak French and ask me if I will arrange a sale for them with another doll seller. And that's the one that always makes me laugh, because the answer is, of course, no. That other doll seller was probably out at the movies, or, the pizza parlor, or roller skating, or whatever, when I was at home studying my French like a good little girl in high school. And it's not happening. They're not going to get to go off to the pizza parlor while I had to study and then use my studying to secure them sales. Not happening. I didn't get to go to the pizza parlor. They don't get my French. So that was one of the other interesting things that happens. And it happens remarkably often. That's the other thing. Now, I know a lot of people from other countries who do a doll business. They buy from me, I buy from them, back and forth, because it's collector sellers. And they are very handy to have in your back pocket, because if they are in Germany, they will speak German. They will usually speak some English. I have what I call doll German. If it has to do with dolls or doll clothes, I can speak that much German. But if you pull out doll and substitute dog, for example, I'm lost. I can't do it. But I do fine with doll German. And we were able to work things out so that if they had trouble with English, I could help them out. If I had trouble with a German sale, they would help me out, so on and so forth. It was very, very cordial. These are people that I still correspond with, many of them. And so it was never a horrible cutthroat sort of thing. But I wouldn't break out of our little club, so to speak. If somebody wanted to do business with one of my doll buddies, oh, fantastic, of course, I'll help you. But if it's some seller I don't know, no. They were eating pizza. I was studying French. They can have their pizza, but they can't have my French. As a buyer, I have had some very strange experiences as a buyer as well as a seller. One of the more recent, and I remember talking to Jocelyn about this when it was going on, and she was saying, I'm sure this is someone who doesn't speak English as a native language. So, yeah, I'm positive it was someone. No, I was wrong. Of course they spoke English. I had purchased a small celluloid fan from a seller, and they sent me the wrong fan. I was able to identify the fan they sent as another one of their listings. They had a couple of celluloid fans. So I contacted the seller and said, you sent me the wrong fan. I would like to send this fan back to you and get the fan that I wanted. And I took a picture of the fan that she sent it to her. That's not my fan. Here's your listing. Here's a picture of your fan. Look, see, same fan. No, it's not. That's not my fan. Well, yeah, it's your fan. No, like, seriously, it's your fan. Back and forth, back and forth. And finally, I took a good hard look at her pictures, and her pictures were a little darker than mine. And I thought, gee, I think maybe she photographed this without a flash. So I took another picture without a flash, tried to get it the same color as the fan in her listing. And finally she's like, oh yeah, that's my fan. Okay, we've only been going back for 3 weeks like this. I sent back the fan. She got her fan back. I got the fan I wanted. She even refunded me the postage, which was very nice because I don't even think she made a penny on that sale. But what can I say? She sent me the wrong fan too, but I got the fan I wanted, which I still have, by the way. But it was just so frustrating to say this is your fan and have her say no it isn't, back and forth. So one of the things that taught me, and ultimately I guess this is something I should have known all along, is there are some people out there who just don't see as well as I do, which is one of the strangest things. I am blind. I have a white cane. I read Braille. And I did a better job of identifying her fan than she did. I think maybe it's a question of you should never assume a seller knows as much about their inventory as you might know having seen pieces from their inventory. It could be months since she even looked at those fans, So that was the takeaway from that. And as I say, I always try to take something away, something positive away from this. In this case, yeah, maybe I did know her inventory better than she did. Oh, she was very nice. Like I said, when it was all settled and done with, she was very nice. She was just terrific about it. She just apparently just had a brain burp and didn't recognize her fan. And the other thing that taught me was when I was talking to Jocelyn about it, I was saying, you realize I'm going to have to throw this into dispute. I'm not going to get that fan that I wanted, which is so frustrating because it's still there. It's still for sale. I want the fan. And Jocelyn was saying, well, give me the information. I'll buy the fan for you. So, it may come to that. Turned out I misjudged her. I did not need to go into dispute. I did not need to make a federal case out of it. As soon as I just took the picture without the flash, and apparently that's all she needed, everything fell into line. So those are some of my eBay stories, and I'd love to hear some of your eBay stories because that's what this is all about. I don't want to just hear myself talk. I want some back and forth here. So you got the comments. Tell me some of your crazy eBay stories. And who knows, maybe we'll do this again. Maybe we'll just trade crazy war stories. Meantime, I really am going to get those little orchid clips because I cannot deal with my hair anymore. I know, isn't this pathetic? Everything going on around us and all I care about is my hair, but everything that's going on around us and my hair it's just, I need a haircut so badly. I'm going to go. Do you remember, it was like the 1970s and they had this thing, it was called a Flowbee, and you stuck it on your vacuum cleaner and it sucked your hair and cut it at the same time. That's what I'm going to go looking for because in very short order, I am going to have to start cutting my own hair. It will make me completely crazy if I don't. All right. Give me your eBay stories. Or Etsy or Poshmark or whatever. The funny ones, the sad ones, the tragic ones, whatever. Give me your favorite stories in the comments and we'll just start comparing notes. Okay. I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Meantime, have a great day.